It is Sunday evening, December 28th, 28, December 18th. It's a cold one tonight. It is 33 degrees. You know, the severe weather shelters are open this evening. So you know, govern yourselves accordingly. I have sent that message out numerous times, getting myself together here. In full disclosure, this show was going to start at 7:45. The program that I use sets it up to start at the 15-minute increment. So I had hit save before I had realized what I had done, and I couldn't take it back. So that just meant that I need to get ready now, right? That's what that means. I need to get ready now. So I'm ready. You know, if you get ready, you stay ready. You don't have to get ready. So we're going to get into this discussion tonight here in just a second. I think I'm on out the woods now. Got COVID, of course. Feeling better ish. I'm good. I'm good. All right, so we got to have a conversation tonight. It's a pretty serious one here about reparations. And there's been a lot of talk about this in the news lately. And so I figured I needed to weigh in on this conversation. And there is a lot of information going about right now where different states are entertaining reparations. California, some others. And I guess I feel some kind of way about that. I do, very much. Not a fan. I'm going to tell you why. But you know, I'm a solution based person here, so I'm going to give you a different alternative here. But as you can see here, just if you Google reparations, that's all I put in here. You can see California Reparations Task Force to talk eligibility. Okay. NAACP's got some things on reparations. St. Paul Mayor. I don't know what that is. Oh, what is this one? The New York Post back in April. Reparations aren't about justice. They're an act of revenge. Let's click on this. I'm curious. Reparations aren't about justice. They're an act of revenge. So this is from Douglas Murray. This is the New York Post here. 10 years ago, the idea of reparations sat on the political fringes of America. The question of whether or not compensation should once have been paid to former slaves has died out, not least because by the start of the 21st century, no one in America had actually suffered from slavery. That's laughable. The country was a century and a half away from the bloody civil war it had fought over the issue. But there's a tendency in our own age which does not allow wounds to mend or heal. Indeed, there is a movement that locates long healed wounds in order to rip them open again. So, if this is a picture of the author, who is he to say whether or not our wounds have healed or not? This country has not atoned. In 2014, the writer uh, Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote an essay in The Atlantic making the case for reparations. I'll open this up and put that there along with this article if you want to read it. My whole family tree is from Louisiana. So, yeah, I need my cut, especially before California. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good one tonight. Brandon, thank you for the wishes earlier. Caught me when I was in, actually had the ability to get some sleep. So, I appreciate you looking out for me like that. All right. So, this is the article that he was referring to with Mr. Coates there. But let's get back to it. In recent times, few articles have had more impact. The issue of reparations began to be picked up by the radical left and then made its way to the political center. By the time of the Democratic primaries in 2020, all of the party's candidates were willing to talk about the issue. Some, including Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, expressed support for some form of reparations. Such candidates pointed to the disparity between the average household wealth in white families and black families in America, which is obvious. Once the Democrats, once the Democrats were in power, one of the first things they did in Congress was apply pressure on President Biden to set up a commission to study reparations, right? And this commission, right, this is the trick bag that the left likes to do. Is, when there was the Asian hate bill, both sides were able to come up with $50 million pretty immediately. But for black folks, we need to just set up a commission, and that takes an act of Congress, literally. So when you hear the term, it takes an act of Congress, this was an act of Congress just to talk about reparations. Okay? Such candidates pointed to the disparity. I read that. Once the Democrats were in power, there's a comprehensive study for black Americans, both for slavery and for systemic racism, a guilty verdict that was already in. Yes, that is true. We don't need to study it. We know it's true. It's certainly true that there are disparities of wealth. And I'm not going to keep reading this because this is denialism at its best. And so we won't waste any more time with that. But what I wanted to pull up and what we have to talk about is some of the hard conversations we have to have with some of our own folks. And, I point to the whole thing of folks like to say, kinfolk ain't kinfolk. And that's all about a matter of perspective, right? Because if you ain't down with me, then, don't matter if you skin folk, you ain't kinfolk. And the same goes for you. That's just how it goes. So then everyone gets to say that. True story. So we have to be careful on what we do and what we say and who we allow to speak for us. Now I'm going to run it all the way down for you when I talk about who the who is that I'm referring to. Now, for those of you urban folks, I'm not going to play this, but Vlad TV, I'm going to go ahead and pause that just because, one, we got commercials, but two, he does like to do copyright strikes, even if you are issuing fair use for educational purposes. Fair use, by the way. But Vlad from Vlad TV interviewed Faison Love. And I'm going to play this part for you. I'm just not going to play it so that you can see it. Okay. And he talks about reparations. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this in there so you can check it out for yourself. And he talks about why we shouldn't get reparations. And if those of you that don't know, Faison Love is a black comic, or Actually, I believe he is Cuban American, but he is black passing. You've heard of white passing. A lot of people haven't heard of black passing, and they don't want us to have that conversation. But let's go ahead and play this. Let me make sure we can hear this. All right, so let me get this ready for you. Like I said, all right, so I need to fix this so you can hear it without it being on the screen. Oh, you know what I can do? I can do this. This is what I do. Got to be two ways to skin a cat, right? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Bam. Now I'll play. Whoops. That still is. All right, hold on. All right, so let me go ahead and fix this audio here. If you heard any of that, which I will play again so everyone can hear it, that is some of what the issue is, right? Like I said, I get attacked quite a bit for these things, so I got to make sure that I'm good, you know? All right, so now that we can hear this, let's try this again. I'm going to go ahead and rewind it here. Oh. Hmm. Okay, so maybe what's happening here, I think I saw this on another show. Depending on who you are, they can actually capture that and it won't even play at all. I don't know what level of the game you got to get for it to be like that, but I'm definitely not at that level. So let me go ahead and get that really quick. And there's been some other folks here that have warned against this particular channel here and having that level of power. So as soon as this little commercial plays, I'll find the spot and then I should be able to play it through here. And then we'll see what we got going on. almost there, y'all. Oh, well, let's see if we can hear this. 'Cause I can hear it in my headphones, but y'all can't hear it. And if y'all can't hear it, that doesn't really help, does it? So let's see. Shout out to the Black Authority, and I'll put this in the chat because this is where I saw this in the first place, not from Vlad. All right. All right. So something's going on there. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up on my TV, and I'm gonna play it that way. Or maybe I'll just paraphrase what he says. Maybe that is the way to do that. That's what I'll do. Just in the sake of time. I don't want to get too far away from this. Okay. So this is Phase on Love that you can see here on the screen. All right. Comedian. And we're going to go ahead and play what he has to say. So Vlad is talking right now, and he's saying that there was a woman on a committee that was talking about reparations, about looking into reparations for the housing wealth gap, and that California wants to give $223,000 to who's a dependent or a descendant of slave. Phase on Love right now is saying, fuck that. It's a trick bag. Don't give them the money. Don't give them the money. It's gonna go right back to Cadillacs. And what he is advocating for is that we should be tax exempt. And he's saying when we were slaves, that we would get uh, we could get a tax write-off. So again, the reason why I wanted to play that for you was this is someone who is black passing, who is saying that not only should we not get reparations, but if we were to get reparations, we're just going to waste the money anyway. So don't give it to us because we're just going to blow it. And if that doesn't sound like something that a racist person would utter, I don't know what is. But there are a lot of black folks that utter just this sentiment that don't give us reparations. If you give us money, we're just going to blow the money. And whether that is true or not, who has the right to tell you what to do with your money that is owed to you? Imagine, if you will, if you loaned out $100 to someone and they want to pay you back, but they say, well, you know what? I'm willing to consider paying you back this $100, but I need to know that you're going to do right by this money, and I will determine what is right by what you do with the money. Imagine that. Now, did we tell the Japanese what to do with the reparations? Did we tell the indigenous first peoples what to do with their reparations? Did we tell the slave owners after they were compensated after the Civil War what to do with their reparations? So another group is told what to do with the money that is owed to them. But for black folks, you will have black folks and black passing black folks tell you that if you are given reparations, well, you really shouldn't receive those reparations because if you do get them, you're just going to blow it. You're going to waste it. How dare you utter something so offensive, so ignorant, so self hating as that? I've had some conversations with people here locally on reparations. And another thing that you'll hear from those that black folks that don't want reparations, you know, they got theirs. They're good. So they believe they got it out the mud. They didn't. And since they got it and they worked hard, you should just work hard too, right? It becomes that kind of crabs in a barrel mentality. The problem is that the crab at the top doesn't want the crabs at the bottom to crawl their way up to them, right? See, that's what many who are saying no to reparations, that's one of the reasons why they're saying it, right? They look at it as a zero sum game. If we give black people reparations, they're going to catch up. They may even pass us, especially for what some are estimating is owed. Well, we can't have that, right? So then we come up with all these things like, well, slavery was so long ago. I never owned slaves. You know, you need to, enough time has passed. You need to get it out the mud. You're just going to waste it. What you need is education. What you need is job opportunity, right? What you need really is to be plugged into the matrix, right? You need a job. You need education. You need debt. People are losing their minds in this country over $10,000 loan forgiveness for student loans. And so what you want to do is you want to give us debt, but throughout the country, whether it's social services or anywhere else, they're now taking experience in lieu of education. So giving us education would actually be a trick bag. The only thing that you can give us is money. So let me go ahead and break it down for you. Go ahead and pull this up. Sorry about that. And if anyone wants this document, you can send me an email and I will send it to you. But what we're going to get into tonight is who should receive reparations, why they should receive reparations, what form they should receive the reparations in, how much they should receive in reparations, when they should receive those reparations, protection of reparations, protected class status, some notable things, IP, intellectual properties, business goods and services. Now, again, like I said, this show is going to start a half hour later, but I hit the button and it started now. So I wasn't able to uh, fix my errors and my grammar, all that good stuff. All right. So let's go into this. Who should receive reparations? Okay. Well, a few different definitions. FBA. Now, this is how I identify. I identify myself as a foundational Black American. Okay. As I was saying on Wednesday, I do not consider myself an African American. Elon Musk is actually an African American. I do not consider myself ADOS, which is an African descendant of slavery. And the reason why I don't is because I'm here in the United States. And so slavery was everywhere, right? South America, Central America, Jamaica, Haiti, all over. But I'm here in America. My reparations should come from this country. This is where my great grandparents were, or my grandparents. This is where my descendant line came from. So I'm a foundational Black American. And so I do not believe that any other group should be receiving reparations outside of foundational Black Americans. And that's number or letter B there. Now, I'll say that FBA, who either do not have the mental faculty to manage the reparations, must create a plan. A plan should be created to ensure high quality of care that will last the duration of their lives, investment planning, descendant planning, and estate planning. I'll come back to that later. Why should they receive reparations? While the United States of America had their part to play in the transatlantic slave trade, we are primarily concerned with the people whose descendants were brought directly to the United States of America. So, all the other places, as I was saying before, not saying that they shouldn't receive reparations, but they need to receive those from their country of entry. Okay? Now, number 3 is what form should we receive those reparations in? Let me go ahead and put that in there so we know what we're talking about right now. Reparations, again, should only be given in American dollars, not in property, not in gold, not in education, not in consultation, not in entrepreneurship, nor any other substitution for American dollars. And the reason being, and shout out to, I think that's the Black Authority, you're cutting out of the middleman. So you don't need property, you don't need education, you need cash. Because with cash, you can purchase the land, you can purchase the education, you can purchase the equipment. I'll go a step further. What land are you going to receive? Where are they going to get the land from? What is going to be the quality of the land? Do we get port land? Not Portland, like Portland, Oregon. But coastal land? Who's giving that up? And we have climate change, right? So what happens as every year, more and more, the shores erode as sea level rises. So it might be valuable now, but who knows in 10, 15, 20 years. So no, we should not be given land. We should be given money, because with money, you can buy whatever it is that you need. Cut out the middleman. So when someone says, oh, they should get education, oh, they should get job training, oh, they should get gold, oh, they should get crypto, oh, they should get, no. Because you're going to convert that to cash, right? Well, I can sell the land and then I can go and do something else. Well, if you're going to sell the land, then why not just get cash in the first place, right? So that settles that argument there. Also, there's a current push to acknowledge, you see it on many of the Zooms that you're in or some of the programming that I show, right? Where there's a land acknowledgement that the land was stolen from indigenous people, First Peoples. So if that wrong is ever righted and you're given their land, well, how's that going to go? Exactly. See how that sounds like a trick bag? So you want the cash. US dollars and US dollars only. All right, number 4. How much should we receive in reparations? Now, in this one, we've already determined who, right? Foundational Black Americans only. We're not talking about diaspora Black folks. We're talking about slaves that were brought here to the United States. The descendants of those people are the ones that should receive reparations from the United States. See, that solves all the drama of, well, what about this and what about that? Okay. But I did some crude numbers. Now, this is arbitrary, but I will tell you that the $250,000 amount that California is talking about, or 233, I think, is what they're talking about. You can't even buy a house in California for that. So, what exactly are you supposed to do with $233,000? Right? That's laughable. So, this is what I did. I based reparations on $12,500 per year. From the start of slavery for 400 years, each FBA would receive $5 million, US based on the year they start receiving the reparations. Okay? $5 million. If you multiply, that's how you get that number. Reparations will always be adjusted for inflation, hyperinflation, natural or man-made disasters like war. So then that settles that argument. You know, I was listening to, again, TBA the other day, and some of the folks were arguing about how the dollar is fluctuating, and BRICS and some of the international things that are going on. We're not going back to the gold standard. US dollar. Cash reparations will be paid in multiple parts. And this is how I broke this down, right? We are owed our 40 acres and a mule. So that will be paid at the current rate of 70% of the median land value in the highest property in the United States. So if that's the Beverly Hills zip code, was that Nantucket? That's where we'll take that from. Not the median, 70% of the median. Okay, so the example here is, for instance, if California, 70% of their median land value is higher than 70% of the median land value of all other 50 states, that is what we will use to pay the 40 acres and a mule based on that. Okay, and that's how this number here could actually be lower than this number, or actually higher, right? Depending on what that's worth. 40 acres in the most expensive zip code could be more than that. The 70% median land value will be calculated at the time of payout. For instance, if the first payout went out in 2023, 70% of the median home value will be calculated for the year that the payment was paid out. If the next round of payments is in 2025, then it would be adjusted based on that year's 70% median land value, even if the state changes. So, for example, in our first example, if reparations were paid this year, it'd be 70%. Let's say California has the highest median zip code in the United States. So it's calculated on that. But in 2025, maybe that switches to New York. And if it switches, that's the adjustment. Then it's going to switch to New York. Because again, you can never make up the compounding of interest. And if people understand investments and saving, you understand the power of compounding. You understand the power of interest. And so, no, it's not likely, you give FBA $40 trillion or something crazy like that. Probably not going to happen. But this is, I believe, doable, especially when we watch the billions and billions and billions of dollars that are being handed over to Ukraine. Without any kind of accountability, right? There's all kinds of stories coming out of Ukraine of corruption. Okay. The mule will be calculated on the inflated adjusted cost of today's equipment to farmland, also to be paid in cash. Remember, everything will be paid in cash. So, no, you're not going to receive a car. No, you're not going to receive a tractor. Everything will be paid in cash. And like I said, it's going to be paid in several parts. So, the subsidies piece, right? Because it was more than just 40 acres and a mule. Ongoing monthly subsidies, as written in the agreement between the United States and slaves, shall be paid in cash in today's dollars. So, whatever that was, and that agreement basically is enforcing the treaties and the agreements that the United States has made to freed slaves. Part C. Any and all treaties, agreements, promises, such as the MGI Bill, Homestead Act, etc., by the United States of America shall be paid at the adjusted inflated rate in cash. Again, at this point, we missed out on that opportunity. So, no, we don't want a 0% loan. Cash. We don't want financial literacy. We don't want first time home buyer. Cash. That's it. Part D, because this is what I think is really happening here. And I think it's insidious what's going on in these states that are trying to find ways to pay reparations locally. Again, $233,000 is laughable. And so part of Part D is any reparations paid by any township, city, county, state, or other municipality or federal government not covering the listed above will be viewed as interest on overdue compensation on reparations. So it doesn't matter what California or New York or Tennessee or what anyone else does in regards to reparations now. If they do it, that's great. Good on you. But that is not going to absolve them from being required to settle the original debt. That's extra. Again, compounding, interest. We can never make up for that. So these states aren't going to get away with saying, oh, well, we did reparations locally, so we don't need to do that. And now we've set up a model for the other states to do. And, once we give, a bunch of folks $233,000, well, we're good. Now we can put it behind us. No, it's not going down like that. No foundational Black American who has received these previously paid reparations may opt out of receiving the reparations in cash proposed here. Now, again, this is critical. Like I said before, people like Faison Love say, hey, we shouldn't get no reparations. They're just going to go and buy Cadillacs. You understand how racist that is? The self-hate in that? I'm good. I got my bag. I don't need any reparations. I don't need no handout. Well, that's mighty damn selfish of you. You don't look at the median income of how Black Americans live in this country and the millions that live at the level that they live at. But I'm glad you're good. Selfish as hell. All right. So far we've talked about who should receive reparations, why they should receive reparations, what form they should receive reparations, how much they should receive. Now let's talk about when they should get them. When should you get the reparations? And again, we talked about either $5 million or calculating it based on 70% of the median income, based on that 40 acres and a mule, adding any subsidies or any other treaties or agreements that were thereby set. All to be paid in cash and cash only. No land, no services, no goods, cash only. Cash only. And when should they be paid? They should be paid immediately. You know that we can do it. And we can do it because, well, we're sending millions of dollars to billions of dollars to Ukraine. During COVID, we were printing money, stimulus checks, everything else. We're about to give, 50 billion to Africa. So we have the money. Our military industrial complex, our prison industrial complex, we have all kinds of places that we can pull the money from. Right? We got to get into protection of reparations. And see, one of the things that Faison Love and others like him were talking about is, black folks are going to go out and they're just going to buy Cadillacs and they're going to waste it and they're just going to give the money right back. To me, I think that would even be an argument to receive the reparations, right? Because right now, what is it? The black dollars in the community for 6 minutes? 6 minutes, 6 hours, whatever. It's not a very long time. It's the shortest amount of time out of all the demographics. So wouldn't it be a boon and a stimulus to the economy? Just going to get it back anyway, right? That's how you could look at it if that would help you sleep at night. But we need to protect these reparations. Reparations are to be viewed as sacred and protected. Therefore, no one may lay claim through lawsuit, through debt, or through any other means. Should an individual or entity be wrong and be entitled to compensation either through civil or criminal means, those calculations can only be made based on the where they were prior to receiving reparations. Let me say that again. Should anyone have a claim against a person who received reparations, we will have to go back to before they received those reparations, and it will only be calculated based on where they were at that time. This is sacred. And we understand what America likes to do. It's a very litigious country. And so we're not going to allow people to come up and begin suing foundational Black Americans for whatever and being found guilty and having their money stolen from them. So this is going to be sacred and protected money. Reparations must never be used in calculation and repayment of debt or any other means of compensation for any purpose. Part B, whatever debt is currently owed by a foundational Black American, additional cash will be provided above the already stated amount based on the individual. This will be seen as interest not paid for over the 200 years of slavery and the 200 years of interest. This amount will include student loans, business debt, mortgage, back rent, back taxes, outstanding liens, outstanding judgments, restitution, civil or criminal penalties, etc. Part C, federal, state, and local First Peoples governments can or have their property transferred to them into perpetuity. Okay, so what I'm saying here is, well, let me read the whole thing. Just as with the First Peoples tribal land, the sacred restitution must not be a wealth transfer back out of the hands of foundational Black Americans. Foundational Black Americans may sell or transfer their stake of ownership only to other FBA. Okay? No FBAs such as spouses or non, told you I didn't get a chance to proofread this. Non foundational Black Americans such as spouses may take ownership of cash, property, etc. An asterisk here. And that's whether through divorce, death, gift, or any other means of transferring ownership. So in the Black community, we lament, many of us, especially Black women primarily, lament how our athletes marry white women or have children with white women. And they say, well, you just gave your wealth back to white folks. Because when they're divorced or their child support is $40,000 and $50,000 a month, 200,000 in Kanye's example, Ye's example, right? That wealth distribution is just going right back to white folks. So if your spouse is non-FBA, you cannot transfer anything that you have accumulated through the sacred restitution dollars to any non-FBA individual. And that will happen into perpetuity. Now, a good protection for that is, hey, do you need to know? This might help you figure out, does he or she, do they really love you for you or for your FBA dollars? E, a clause will exist in perpetuity. Oh, that should a loophole or new law, policy, or procedure be created to usurp the above stated, resulting in a transfer of ownership borrowing or other vehicle which would see the loss or control of ownership from FBA is prohibited. Because laws change, right? So you got your $5 million. It's 15 years down the road. There's a new Congress in. Supreme Court's changed a little bit, and they want to go ahead and find a way to access your money. So all of a sudden, they want to change the laws. They want to create loopholes in different ways they can get their hands on your money, on those sacred restituted dollars. I couldn't imagine the United States coming and trying to take back tribal land. So it's going to be the same thing here. Foreign entities, for example, this is part F, China, Russia, Ukraine, Germany, etc., are also prohibited for transfer or ownership or borrowing or other vehicles which would see loss of control or ownership. But see, that's the workaround. We know that this is happening on the continent of Africa right now, right? China is taking advantage of many African countries out there. And so it is very important that we protect the sacred restitution as it comes in. And for those of us that aren't savvy, that are looking for a place to invest and to grow, there's going to be so many of us that want to do some good things. There are going to be a lot of predatory folks out there ready to free you of your dollars. Foreign entities on the continent of Africa or other diaspora countries globally are also subject to the same requirements as foreign entities. Those investments should also remain with FBA. Number 7. Now we're getting this is most of the cash is what I was talking about, right? But I believe these other things should be part of it also. Foundational Black Americans will be considered a protected class. Crimes against foundational Black Americans will receive a 5-year enhancement for a hate crime, a 20-year enhancement for dismemberment or crippling, and a lifetime enhancement for murder. If an FBA, if another foundational Black American commits a crime, they will be sentenced by the regular guidelines of everyone else. So that does not make us exempt. So if you're going to hold everyone else to this standard, we have to hold ourselves to this standard. Any property or goods of a foundational Black American convicted of a crime are subjected to the same protections from seizure or forfeiture. See, one of the games that they do to us and have done to us historically is to charge us with a crime and then seize our assets and say, well, you may have gotten these things based on the commission of a crime. Well, they know better, right? Because you have your reparations. So, it doesn't matter the crime that you commit, those things cannot be subject to forfeit. Those are the sacred reparation dollars. Foundational Black American on foundational Black American crime will carry the same enhancement as others against FBA. I think I typed that there twice. Okay. We are still not considered a protected class here. Some notable things. Foundational Black Americans must not receive any reparation in any form but cash, land, or any other good, service, loan, or that would either be used to access cash. Cash significantly minimizes predatory individuals and businesses to take advantage of FBA. FBAs that do think they deserve, want, need reparations, or that they don't want them, right? Don't think, should be don't think they deserve, want, or need reparations may transfer to another FBA as above, but no FBA can negatively impact or negate what is owed to FBA because they themselves do not believe or others believe or will use reparations how they see fit. And this is the phase on love thing. And what's interesting is I wrote this last night. I've been working on this for a minute, but I finished it last night. This part I wrote last night. That's before I saw the phase on love thing. So you good? You don't need it? You don't want it? You feel some kind of way about it? You don't want the handout? You feel like folks are gonna do wrong with the money? Okay. Well, you can give yours away to another foundation, Black American. That's what you can do. So whether it's your child or your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, you can do that. But you're not going to be so selfish as to sit and speak for the 13 to 15%. I don't know how many of us are foundational Black Americans, so I shouldn't say we're 15%. However many millions of us are out there. And you know that this is the trick bag, as Faison and others like to say, because those are the ones that get voice. Whether it's on MSNBC or on Fox News, they're the ones that give voice, whether it's the left or the right. Those are the Black folk that they parade up there. For an example, I just put that in there. I just said that person A owes person B 10,000. It does not matter what person B does or does not want to do with the money. outside of the above listed, right? That's what we're saying. Hey, I loaned you $1,000 and it's time for you to pay me back that $1,000. And you tell me, well, Marwan, before I give you that $1,000, you need to tell me what you're going to spend that money on. Because if you aren't going to spend it in a way that I think is good, I'm not giving you your money. Listen to how insane that sounds. And we don't tell any other group that. If we wanted to burn that damn money, that would be our right to do so. That's self-hate. That you would stop someone else from receiving something that you don't want because you're good. Intellectual property. Again, these are add-ons. Main thing I'm concerned with here is the cash payout for everyone that is due reparations. But I believe all music masters and such rights will revert back to the FBA artists. All stolen patents will revert back to foundational Black Americans. All patents acquired through predatory terms will be compensated fairly. All stolen inventions will be compensated based on applicable law. For businesses, goods, and services, go ahead and add that down there. Foundational Black Americans who are charged more than 3% more than comparable for purchases will be subject to all applicable civil and criminal penalties. So, again, trying to look out for the trick bag on the other side. All right, we'll go ahead and give these Negroes this cash. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to price gouge. We're going to come up with some other arbitrary measure to charge them more, higher interest, create barriers to access. And you think about how it works on our capitalistic country, right? I'm rich. I've got a great credit score. I have more enough money to pay my bills. So when I go out and I buy a new car or I buy a house, I get this great interest rate. Maybe 0%, maybe 0.8, maybe 2%, maybe 3%. Why? Because I'm a good risk. You know I'm going to pay, so I'm not going to charge you any interest, right? I'll barely charge you. Go ahead, take it. I know you're going to pay. But the way that we make money in this country is to say, well, you know what? You who are struggling, who don't have an affordable place to live, you need a car to get back and forth. You don't have good credit because you had to rob Peter to pay Paul. You had to make a decision on whether or not you keep the lights on or you feed your kids. You pay your rent. You pay some of your rent. You're trying to hold off the landlord. You're holding off the electric bill. You're buying food. You're trying to put gas in the car. You're riding dirty because you don't have insurance. You know you need to get it in the shop, but you're hoping it'll make it another week. We're going to charge 18%. We're going to charge 25%. You can go and get a payday loan. And then we say, well, you know what? These guys are such bad credit risk. We got to give them this higher amount because otherwise, we got to protect our interest. And it's the very interest that you're charging, which increases the likelihood that they're going to default on their loan in the first damn place. And everybody knows the game, but nobody talks about it. These are sacred dollars. So that won't happen with these sacred dollars. So any claims foundational Black Americans have against discriminatory practices will be prioritized by the U.S. court system. And remember that enhancement up there? So if it's falling outside of 3%, either way, you got a problem. Because we told you don't play with that money. Because you've had 400 years to make money off of it and have interest on it. And give yourself a head start. Give this country a head start. Build it into the world power that it is. Don't play with our money. Stalling tactics and strategies used to drain FBA resources will be prohibited and subjected to significant penalties. We know large corporations will drag out and create extensions for trial and court cases because they're buying time, lobbying for laws to change, hoping that the suing party runs out of money. No, we're not doing that. I believe this is a start, these 10 things here that I have shared with you. Who should receive reparations? Foundational Black Americans. Who are foundational Black Americans? Descendants of slaves that came to the United States, not to Haiti, not to Jamaica, not to anywhere else. Those places should receive reparations from those places. Why they should receive reparations? Well, that goes without saying. What form? Cash and cash only. Whether it's 40 acres and a mule, whether it's satisfying a treaty or agreements, everything is received in cash. You're not going to trick foundational Black Americans and give them land or give them education, give them equipment, give them goods that they have to go back and then sell to get the cash that they wanted in the first place. How much should they receive in reparations? $5 million at the base, or calculating the 40 acres based on the 70% of the median income or land value in the highest zip code in the country at the time those reparations are paid out. And that's a moving target that is adjustable based on the year that the reparations are paid. And that should start immediately. Reparations should be protected, should be viewed as a sacred payment that cannot be levied against in any way, whether through loans, criminal, civil penalties, or anything else. Lien free. FBAs should be considered a protected class, just as LGBT are, just as Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And those enhancements should carry for whatever crime is committed against an FBA. And as such, if an FBA commits a crime on an FBA, those same penalties hold. And regardless of the trouble that an FBA gets into, the sacred reparations will never be seized or forfeit. Now, it could be transferred to another FBA, but the government isn't going to try to get it back. The government isn't going to conspire with other individuals through litigation to get the money back. Some of the notable things. Doesn't matter whether you want reparations or not. Doesn't matter what we do with the money or not. That is not for anyone to say. So if you don't want your share, then you can give it to another FBA only. You cannot donate it to United Way or to the Salvation Army or to Toys for Tots or anything else. IP, intellectual property, should be restored to the originator. So many inventions, so many patents that foundational Black Americans have had over the centuries. The elevator, the super soaker, on and on and on. Open heart surgery. business goods and services. And lastly, as we go to use our sacred dollars, we will not be charged outside of 3% above or underneath what everyone else is being charged. Otherwise, the penalties, as stated above, will kick in. These are the sacred dollars. This is reparations. This is what I'm advocating for as a foundational Black American. I hope that other foundational Black Americans will do the same. I definitely hope that other diaspora also do the same, and the rest of our allies. As the term says, cut the check. It's not for playing 23. We're calling it out. We're going hard. Stay on code, folks.